the debate that would flow from having a world with big fiat currencies and one or more gold-backed currencies would be fascinating, because people would kind of be forced to learn about the two concepts and compare and contrast and come to some conclusions about which is better. And see, that process creates gold bugs by the millions. So we would have a whole planet full of people going, oh, I see what, so you would have on two levels. You would have people in vast numbers looking at buying gold for their own accounts and voting for people who are in favor of instituting more gold-backed currency.
Recent developments indicate that the Brics countries are taking steps to challenge the dominance of the US dollar in international trade. One notable announcement came from the Russian embassy in Kenya, stating that the Brics countries are planning to introduce a new currency for trading. This currency will be different because it will be backed by gold, which means that there will be a reserve of gold to support its value. This shift away from the US dollar is happening right now. In an interview with Liberty and Finance, John Rubino, a former financial analyst, predicted that the coexistence of fiat and gold-backed currencies would result in more people buying gold and supporting the use of gold-backed currencies. Countries are looking for alternatives to the US dollar due to concerns about its dominance and the US using it for sanctions. Russia and China are increasing trade using their own currencies. Russia and Iran are developing a gold-backed cryptocurrency. Central banks, especially Russia and China, are buying gold to diversify reserves away from the US dollar. Rubino highlighted that the US dollar's dominance in the global financial system is being challenged due to concerns about US abuse of power. India's External Affairs Minister, Subramaniam Jaishankar, announced in a press conference that India has no intention of participating in the creation of a Brics currency. Instead, India will prioritize strengthening its national currency. Rubino expressed that the US might have either threatened them or offered them attractive benefits. Let's watch snippets from John Rubino's interview, but before getting into the video, make sure to subscribe our channel and give this video a thumbs up.
But the background is that the US, because it has the world's reserve currency and basically dominates the global financial system, has been abusing that power for the last few decades. And that's led to a lot of anger out there. People who've been victims or are potential victims of US bullying have been looking for ways around dollar hegemony. This group called the Brics, which is Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, has been around for a long time as a concept, but it hasn't done all that much that's concrete in terms of becoming a legitimate, functioning, consequential alliance. But lately, the things the U.S. has been doing, especially with regard to Russia, where they just basically expropriated a big chunk of Russia's gold reserves over the Ukraine war, that's kind of catalyzed the will of a lot of these guys. And so the BRICS concept is becoming a real alliance, and a lot of other countries are asking to join. So it's becoming a potentially big deal. And one of the, as you mentioned, first things that they're about to do is to introduce a currency that, and we don't know the details of, who does what within the currency union and what the rules are or anything like that. But we know they're introducing a currency that's going to be backed by gold. And since it'll be a BRICS currency, it's going to be run by a group of countries that together are consequential. They have a lot of natural resources. They own quite a bit of gold, if you include, especially Russia and China. And they've got a big part of the world's population. So this is a potentially big deal, but we don't know any of the details. So this is one of those things where we'll find out a lot at the August 22nd meeting, but we don't know how much we'll find out. It could be just that they make this announcement again and say a few things about it and then work out the details over the long term. Or it could be that they've got it all worked out and they're going to come out with something that has its rules all in place and everything. But, there's a very interesting coda to this. India, one of the major BRICS countries, came out and said they're not going to participate in the new currency. which probably means the US either threatened them or offered them some really interesting perk in terms of like a trade deal or something like that if they wouldn't participate. So you're seeing the US get involved in this already. And that's always been one of the big questions, because the US tends to react violently to anybody who steps out of line in terms of dollar dominance in global trade. So now India has become kind of a target, probably, of U.S. disruption, and they've decided to back off of the Brics currency thing. So we'll see. Lots more coming on this story, and lots of details and lots of speculation. But right now we've got an event and a date, which is highly unusual in the world of financial speculation. We know that something is going to happen on a given date, and that lets us mark that on our calendars and be prepared to pay attention when it happens.
The government spends more money than it receives, leading to a deficit. To cover this shortfall, the government borrows money from the public by issuing securities like bills, notes, and bonds through the Treasury. Rubino argued that the U.S. government promotes a culture of debt accumulation, which can lead to financial dependency. China has been taking significant steps to reduce reliance on the U.S. dollar by encouraging the use of its own currency, the yuan, in international trade. Global central banks have been increasingly utilizing yuan through currency swaps. China has also continued to increase its gold reserves for the 8th consecutive month. According to official data released, the People's Bank of China added 680,000 troy ounces of gold in the last month, equivalent to 23 tons. Rubino highlighted that China has recognized the potential decline in the value of fiat currencies and now encourages its citizens to accumulate gold as a hedge against currency instability and to protect their wealth. The appeal of de-dollarization and a possible Brics currency is that it could help to mitigate some of the problems associated with using the U.S. dollar. U.S. Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen believes that the dollar will remain dominant, as most countries have no viable alternative. On the other hand, a former White House economist sees a potential pathway for a Brics currency to challenge and potentially end dollar dominance. Rubino believes that the rise of gold-backed currency could challenge governments and lead to dangerous and uncertain times as they try to maintain their power. Let's watch John Rubino's interview with Liberty and Finance.
In the U.S., they're taking a different approach. They want to create a nation of debt slaves, where they encourage us, where China is encouraging their people to accumulate gold. The U.S. government is encouraging us to borrow as much as possible, because the more we owe, the more we got to have that next paycheck, right? Now with China, it's pretty clear they saw what was coming for the fiat currencies, and they fully expect a lot of the big fiat currencies to lose value at an accelerating rate and just crash to their intrinsic value at some point. And they see their citizens accumulating gold as a way of protecting their citizens from, the currency turmoil that's obviously coming, and of making their citizens richer if there is an actual real gold-backed Brics currency. Because and we even know what they'll say, because they've already been saying it on other topics. They're going to say, whoa, if you like a gold-backed currency, you must be a tool of the Russians, or you must be pro-China. Putin loves hearing you say what you're saying, stuff like that, because that's what they've already been saying about the Ukraine war and lots of other things. So they'll just dust off the thing that has kind of sort of worked for them in the past, and they'll definitely use it. I think in this case, it's such an obvious thing. And, with vaccines and things like that, people don't necessarily understand how they work. So it's harder to have a strong opinion. And with, geopolitics, what goes on in Ukraine and who fired the first shot and things like that, that's also an arguable thing for people who aren't obsessing over it and paying really close attention. But when it comes to money and bank accounts, that's something that's more easily understood. And because of that, it's going to be easier for people to form strong opinions and the correct opinions. It's going to be easier to understand why gold works as the backing for a currency and why an unbacked currency doesn't work. than most of these other issues. So I think you'll see a very quick, very big consensus form once there are competing currencies out there, and one of them is backed by gold, and one of them, or many of them, are not. So, yeah, I think that this is one where public opinion could coalesce very quickly around the right answer. And that's going to make it that much more of an emergency for the government. So they're going to lash out in that much more an extreme way. So, I think it's going to be very dangerous at first as these guys try to figure out, as the aristocracy running the big countries tries to figure out how to maintain their power and cuts whatever corner and breaks whatever law they have to make that happen.
The Brics currency is a sign that many countries want to move away from the US dollar. However, it is not the only thing that will change the global economic order. The Brics countries also need to work together to coordinate their policies and innovate. In other words, the Brics currency is just one part of a bigger picture. If the Brics countries can work together effectively, they can create a new global economic order that is fairer and more equitable for everyone. What do you think about the rise of gold-backed currencies and the potential impact on the global economic order? That's all from us. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe our channel and click the bell icon to be notified of future videos. We hope our content has helped you in your trading endeavors.